Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town Council meeting of Monday, March 14th, 2022, here at 7:02 p.m. in the McKinnon Council Chambers. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Councilor Adams. Present. Councilor Marquetti.
Present.
Councilor Catrona.
Excused.
Councilor Steves.
Present.
Councilor Daniel.
Present.
Councilor Ryan.
Present.
Councilor Lazo.
Present.
Councilor Dow.
Excused.
Councilor Jove.
Present.
We have a quorum. Agenda item number 3, consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, February 28th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Any amendments, changes, deletions, substitutions? Got it. Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Subcommittee reports. General Government, Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a number of items on the agenda tonight, and they were all recommended unanimously, but I'll give more detail at the specific item. Thank you.
Very good. Department of Public
Mr.
Works.
Chairman, I'm sorry. I did not hear a word
You didn't hear
from
me?
Councilor Ryan.
Go ahead.
Okay. We did have a meeting. We do have items on the agenda tonight. I'll give more information at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Department of Public Works, Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had no meetings, but we do have a meeting scheduled for March 22nd, 7 p.m. in the Veterans Room. Thank you.
Very good. Education and Human Services, Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No meeting held. We do have a meeting scheduled for March 22nd as well. That will be at 6 p.m.
Very good. Planning and Development, Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, we had a meeting on March 3rd, 2022. Agenda items number 9, 10, and 11 are on tonight's meeting, our agenda. Our next meeting is March 17th, 2022 in the Veterans Room at 6 p.m. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. And Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Lazo.
No report at this time. We have a meeting scheduled for March 31st, 6 o'clock at the Veterans Room.
Very good. Thank you. Chairman's announcements. I would like to announce that I'm creating an ad hoc committee to examine and evaluate uses of the Arpa funds designated for the town of Southbridge. The charge to the committee is to solicit ideas for uses of the funds from town council members, department heads, and interested citizens, to categorize and prioritize the various ideas solicited, to report to town council at the April 25th meeting with a list of ideas, priorities, and recommendations for use. The members of the ad hoc committee will be Council Vice Chair David Adams, Councilor at-Large Gus Steves, and Town Manager Michael McCall. And that's all I have. Item number 6, Town Manager's announcements.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I just want to give you a quick update. Today we had what appears to be our last COVID-19 briefing. We have been meeting, as many of you know, bi-weekly to go over with Harrington Hospital and various department heads any of the issues that may be going on in the town relative to the Omicron surge that we had seen. This was different from the Emergency Operations Center, but similar in a way just to keep everybody informed and share resources as well as information. We typically have a roundtable where we go around primarily getting information from Mr. Pelletier, Harrington Hospital, the public schools, and as well as any of the affected departments. Today's report, Mr. Pelletier had said in the last 1,000 tests they were down to 17 positives, which gave us a positivity rate of 1.7%, and he anticipates it will go lower, possibly to 10 out of 1,000 at the next time. He noted that state agencies are starting to step away from mask requirements, and the stop the spread testing is beginning to slow down. While COVID is still a communicable disease, we are still going to be tracing it here at the town hall. We decided today, based on these numbers and the feedback from Harrington Hospital, which was similar, they have a similar positivity rate, and they're seeing declined participation in their vaccination as well as testing sites, that we will not be meeting going forward, barring any unforeseen emergency, that we feel that we are in a good position relative to COVID. As you know, you recently lifted the mask mandate here. Dr. Villard indicated that based on the Board of Health is voted not to step away from the masks. So speaking with Dr. Villard today's meeting, he's going to continue the masks for 2 more weeks at the school system, and then, assess at that point, but likely remove at that point in time. So the situation now for the town hall and folks here in town is things look good relative to COVID-19 and Omicron, but we still need to treat it as such, a communicable disease. And if you feel like you may have symptoms, go get checked out, ensure that you're not spreading it, but also be mindful and report it to the appropriate authorities so that it can be traced. And that's all I have to have on COVID. I do have a couple of other quick announcements. Anna Smith, who works with recycling, just wanted people to know about yard waste. The yard waste drop-off at the DPW yard on 185 Gulfwood Road will open for the season on April 4th and will run until late fall. And the closing date will be in the fall based on snow. Commercial yard waste is not to be accepted. The 2022 curbside yard waste collection schedule will be from April 18th through May 27th. Please place your leaves in paper bags available at your local stores. Put them curbside on your trash collection day. No plastic bags will be allowed. Additionally, rain barrels will be offered for sale. They're 45% off retail. They're called the Great American Rain Barrel. They're offered through the Southbridge Health Department for $25. The advantages of using this is you can save money on your water bill. It's also a sustainable free resource and ecologically and environmentally friendly, and it's made with 100% repurposed materials here in Massachusetts. If interested, send $25 to the Southbridge Health Department here at Town Hall, 41 Elm Street, with your name, address, and telephone number, and they will arrange a delivery. And that's all I have this evening.
Very good. Item number 7, a proclamation. Presented to Michael Como. Resolved by the Council of the Town of Southbridge. Whereas Michael Como began his career with the Southbridge Public Schools in 1991 as a part-time custodian, and in 1995 was hired on to a full-time position. Whereas Michael has been awarded a multitude of commendations from past principals and superintendents expressing their heartfelt appreciation for his continuous dedication to the school district and the town of Southbridge. Whereas Michael's leadership and management acumen, combined with his work ethic and increased skill set, propelled him to the position of Director of Maintenance and Facilities. Whereas, in the position of Director, Michael was responsible for overseeing all of the school custodial and maintenance staff while ensuring day-to-day operational interests were being accomplished for the school district. Whereas, Michael ensured a close working relationship with the town's Department of Public Works, guaranteeing communication and mutual support was being had by all. Now, therefore, in recognition of Michael's 31 years of excellent work and devotion to the students of Southbridge, the Southbridge Public School District, the Southbridge Town Council, and a grateful town of Southbridge extend its thanks and very best wishes for a long and enjoyable retirement. And witness, therefore, this 14th day of March, 2022, by John L. Daniel, Chairperson, Southbridge Town Council.
Thank you, everybody. Very kind words. Been a lot of years here. Gone through a lot of superintendents, a lot of town managers. I think superintendents get you beat, though. So one person I'd really like to thank, my wife. 41 years, 20 plus of getting the phone calls at midnight, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, alarm calls, me leaving, coming back a couple hours later, phone calls while we're walking on the beach, phone calls at the restaurant. She put a lot a lot into this relationship, and I want to thank her.
I just want to thank Mike for all the advice, conversations, and hard work. In the 4 years I've got to know Mike, he's really a really nice guy. I really enjoyed the conversations we had, and I really appreciated all those hours he's just described that he did for us. He and I had many a conversation at 4 in the morning, on weekends, nights before school, trying to deal with power outages, snowstorms, and the others. And he handled all those duties with aplomb. Really great guy, and I hope that Mike is able to take advantage of his retirement and enjoy the hunting and driving his tractors and his cars and making some good whiskey is what I understand. So I hope he enjoys that time with his friends and family. He absolutely deserves it, and congratulations, Mike. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
I'd just like to comment on this outstanding department head. He's more than just a nice guy. This gentleman, Mike Como, when he took the directorship, he was very instrumental in continuing to build a building maintenance department second to none, adding HVAC, electricians, various things that he thought were going to save the taxpayers money. His line of communication to boards and commissions was second to none. I served on school committee for a good many years with Mike, and the one thing that you always knew, he always did the job correctly, but always cost effective. He was never a department head to go in and say, don't worry about the money, we're just going to do it and we'll worry about that later. That seems to be some train of thought with some people, but not Mike Como. Mike, I'd just like to say for the years of service, thank you very much, but most of all, your friendship and what you did for the town of Southbridge is second to none. Thank you very much.
Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I just want to congratulate Mr. Como on his retirement. I, like Councilor Lazo, had the opportunity. I was chairman of the school committee for 7 straight years, and I think I began on school committee about the same time that Michael took over the directorship as the running the maintenance department. And again, it was a pleasure to work with, and I just want to. He would have got a couple trucks out of me this year, I think, but he's leaving, so we don't have to worry about the trucks. That's just an inside joke between me and Mr. Como, because it seemed that whenever I missed a meeting, he was able to get a couple trucks for his department. But in all sincerity, our buildings were maintained second to none, and thank him for his years of service, and going to miss his cookouts that he does at the end of the summer for the crew down there at that work throughout the summer, but hopefully he won't be a stranger in this system. So thank you.
Anyone else? Very good. We have a second presentation tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manager. Just a very quick update. As you know, we talked at a recent meeting about the curbside collection, the contract existing with Casella coming to an end next year, and the council had voted to go forward with maintaining curbside collection. So after that meeting, I've continued to talk to Vice Chairman Councilor Adams about curbside collection, and I've engaged Mr. Pelletier from the Health Department, as well as Anna Smith, who's our recycling coordinator, to get some information relative to costs, just to keep you abreast of what we're looking at. Much of the initial slides come from the memorandum that they had produced for me, but very briefly, our current curbside trash and recycling contracts estimated cost to replace it would be $1.2 to $1.6 million. The current contract serves up to 7,000 households. However, we're currently serving approximately 6,300, which includes single-family and up to 6-family buildings. Our current services include weekly curbside trash pickup and disposal, biweekly curbside recycling, weekly bulk item pickups, curbside leaf and yard waste pickups 12 times a year, quarterly hazard waste collection, weekly trash pickup and disposal from town buildings and public schools, and biweekly recycling pickup at public buildings, including the schools as well. Mr. Pelletier and Ms. Smith reached out to municipalities with similar number of households and similar tonnage, including a recently initiated contract for the town of Canton that began in 2021. Based on the current costs and assuming projected rate of 4% in 2023 and 4% in 2024, and those were based on a national organization that estimates solid waste contracts. They expect curbside trash and recycling contract to cost between $1.6 and $1.8 million in 2024. The inclusion of specific services would naturally affect the price of such a contract, and the question that should be asked is what services should be maintained and which services would be eliminated or moved to another funding mechanism. The staff then did, in their memo, highlight what they think that we should continue to do, that we should continue to maintain trash restriction to 1 64-gallon container per week per household, maintain a biweekly recycling program in 96-gallon containers, maintain the number of households served in the current contract up to 6 families, maintain conforming containers enabling automation in collection, maintain weekly collection and disposal of trash at the town buildings and public schools, maintain biweekly collection and management of recycling at the public buildings and public schools. They suggest removing bulk items from the contract and direct the contractor to offer bulk collection separately, which can be established for a fee. I've seen that done in other towns. My last community did that. Anybody who wanted to have something picked up, a bulk item, depending upon what it is, you just call ahead and they would pick it up. Certain items were fee-based, such as a TV or an old computer. Curbside collection of leaf and yard waste should be included for 6 weeks in the spring and in the fall. Season-long yard waste and drop-off should be removed from the contract. If the town still recognizes value in this service, the town could perhaps establish a location where it could be accommodated, perhaps using senior volunteers to man the site and possibly generate a fee. Quarterly household waste collection should be considered to be consolidated, removing it from the contract and having one annual event, which could be run separately, sponsored by the Board of Health or the DPW, and sometimes there's grant monies available for such efforts. Increase support staff in the DPW by 1 part-time person. The reason this was included is there's an anticipation if we have some changes that we may see more illegal dumping in the town if bulk pickup happens to be removed. Based on the numbers that they provided me, similar to last year when we went to look at the ballot question for the fire station, I prepared a couple slides which I'll have. The one note of caution, they suggested there are other elements to be considered, such as who maintains the toter supply as well as how trash disposal and recycling processing is handled, which would influence the cost. Today I sat in on a Mass DEP 2-hour-long webinar about costing recycling contracts, and there was an awful lot of discussion about revenue sharing based on the average value of the tonnage and the materials that you are having carted out of town. Staff suggested that we have a meeting to discuss the logic of some of these recommendations prior to determining a cost if we're going to go out on the ballot. So based on the 2 numbers that they provided, similar to last year, I used the existing levy that we have and the most recent average home value that was last calculated last fall when we did our tax reclassification hearing and tax rate hearing. The average home value in Southbridge at that time was $238,000. So to increase our levy by $1.6 million, if that was the number, it's going to result in at the very bottom, a 7% increase or $284 per household, and that's on the low end. If we looked at the impact of a $1.8 million levy increase on the tax bill, it would change the tax rate from $17.90 up to $19.24, increasing the average tax bill from $4,266 to $4,586, which is an increase of $320 or 7.5% increase on your tax rate. Our current tax levy is about, it's the number on the far right for 2022. I just brought this up to show you we have an excess levy capacity at this point in time of $966,000. That is not enough to do this type of increase without going into an override situation. and our current override capacity is over $8 million, $8.7 million. So if the council were to put an override question, an override is a levy limit override increase. It increases the amount of property taxes for revenue that a community may raise in a year specified in the override question, and in future years, it increases the community's levy limit and becomes part of the base for calculating future years' levy limits. The result is a permanent increase in taxing authority. If we are going to do that, and the main reason I brought this up this evening is our next meeting will include a budget presentation, and I know there'll be several subcommittee meetings in advance of the meeting on the 28th, so I just wanted to bring this up to you. The timeline, in case we didn't have time on the 28th to go over this, the timeline for this to go on the June 2022 ballot, the last possible date for a subcommittee prior to the last council meeting of the month would be on April 20th. And then on April 25th would be the last scheduled council meeting of April, which is the last one more than 35 days out from the annual town election, which is June 14th. So we would have to make a decision by then on that time frame if you were going to put a ballot question on the June 14th ballot. And if we do, it would look something similar to what I have here, which is shall the town of Southbridge be allowed to assess an additional, and I used the worst case scenario, $1.8 million in real estate and personal property taxes for the purpose of curbside trash collection for the fiscal year beginning, and I didn't put a date in because I've got to work with council because we actually would need the curbside collection to begin in the end of March. I believe that's when our contract ends. So I'm not sure if we want to start this earlier in the fiscal year, so I have to work on that date, but that's substantially what the ballot question would look like when we come to that point in time. So this was really just to give you an update that we're continuing to get the numbers, and if the chair is so inclined, if you want to have some members meet with Councilor Adams to go over some of those recommendations, which could fine-tune the costs so that we can come up with a dollar amount for the ballot, I'm happy to do that. And entertain any questions, but I just wanted to bring you up to date on where we are with this, and we're still moving forward to have a formal presentation and a ballot question for you in April.
Very good. Councilor Steves?
Yeah, thank you. Just one thing that immediately jumped out at me was looking at that ballot question. That would allow us to only do it for 1 year, the way that is phrased. We'd have to do a much more general override to do it permanently.
My understanding, and I got this from the guide that comes out of the DOR for Proposition 2.5 ballot questions, is once you vote it in, it becomes a permanent part of the base. So it's just the year that you're starting in that it will affect the tax base, so the tax rate or the levy. But it should be in the form, I will double check.
Okay.
But that was, when I looked for a sample which has been used similarly, I came up with this.
Okay. And one of the questions I had, when you mentioned earlier about the idea of keeping the 6-week yard waste for spring and fall and eliminate the rest of the year, one thing I was thinking maybe we want to do is actually start teaching people to compost so we don't have to pick up the yard waste. I don't know if we would be able to do that, but it might be worth considering.
Okay. I can ask Ms. Smith if she could put together something. Maybe we could post it right on the website and some informational sessions about it.
Yeah.
All set?
For the moment.
Councilor Marquetti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Sitting on the Curbside Garbage Collection Committee with Councilor Adams, I know that we talk a lot about creating a transfer station to handle some of these things so we don't have to add them to the contract. I know that I take my leaves down to the DPW. I don't put them out to my curb. It's a pretty easy thing to do, even if you don't have a pickup truck. So with some of the things that you had on your list there, we did cover, and when we brought in, we did invite different contractors to come in and talk to us. Waste Management was the only one that came in to talk to us about it, and they included a lot of that in the cost. So I don't know if putting that in as an additional cost really makes sense because they included it all. So they had one fee. Their fee, though, was based on numbers, so you want to make sure you have a lot of people on on the curbside garbage collection. That's why, I didn't want to do a fee, because then people could opt out, and then it would cost that much more money, so.
Correct.
One thing that they did speak about, though, is I think the first year, they were going to have to buy trucks, and that was going to add to the cost the first year. So that's something that we have to think about. Maybe there's another way of funding that. And that's it. So I look forward to having another meeting on this, but I do agree it should get on the ballot. We do have to handle this. It's going to end in 2024. Waste Management recommended having a year to put this out and discuss it and bid on the or not bid, they don't have to bid, but have an RFQ on it and get it going. So I think that it's best that we get it on this year, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Adams.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some quick notes, and I know the town manager brought up just having a meeting to discuss. I guess I would actually ask the councilors and the residents of the town to go back to the presentations, go back to almost everything that's on the presentations are on there. I think the town manager and the staff really did a good job as far as tightening up the numbers, and it's going to get tighter and tighter as we move forward. So I appreciate all the hard work that Anna and Andy and the town manager are doing to move this forward. I wrote down here the transfer station. I think is something that's good for the town down the road, but it's not something that has to happen tonight. But it's something that I think we need to discuss in the near future, not too far out. I think it's something that it's very important for the town down the road. And sometimes those transfer stations can actually help bring in source of funds as well. Depends on who is leasing it. Is it us? Is it our property? Is it Casella's? Is it the waste station? So a lot of things have to happen there. I'm not a big fan, just to throw it out there, to use any type of tax levy, because if you looked at 22 and 23 numbers, it went from 400,000 to 900,000, and it can go back down. So I would actually leave that alone. It should be used as if we have to tax upon it later on if there's an emergency. My recommendation, I will say, Councilor Steves had brought up the override about 1 year. From my understanding, the only way you do that override, that's good until it stops, and that stops means that stoppage would be an underride by the town council. So they would have to vote on that as well if we ever wanted to stop it down the road, or whoever's sitting in these seats at that point in time. Trucks, I believe, will be encompassed in a 10-year contract with the contractor himself, so I think it'll just all be dissolved within that period of time, because you have a contract now with them, instead of having to pay close to probably $1.2 to $1.4 million for 3 trucks. So I think there's a lot to still be done, but I do appreciate the town staff and really looking into this, because I do believe it has to go on the ballot in June. If we're going to do this, we have to do it in June. And I already know Andy and Anna and the town manager and all the staff are already working on what ifs, backup plan to a backup plan, i.e. if the voters say no, what's the next step at that point in time? Because there's a lot of education that's going to have to happen after that for independent contracting. So if you have any other questions, I always reach out. I know Councilor Marchetti was big at doing a lot of the work. He found a lot of information from CDBG funds to working with local towns. So anyways, that's all I have to say right now, but thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for bringing this presentation forward.
And again, Mr. Chairman, my thanks to Mr. Pelletier and Ms. Smith for providing a lot of the information that I used this evening. Thank you.
Very good. Item number 8, Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens that would like to approach the podium at this time to discuss an issue not on tonight's agenda?
Donald Solinsky, 33 Henry Street. If anybody has anything to say, please wait until I'm done, because I only got 5 minutes, so I'll start my 5 minutes now. For the citizens of Southbridge, I will recap the highlights of this nightmare that cost the taxpayers $9,827.55 in just attorney fees to take my dog from me at the recommendation of the ACO as a result of my dog having a temporary choking emergency. a temporary choking emergency. Her reason, quote, for the possibility that it will happen again, end quote. There was a ruling from the town after a fair hearing in January 2021 that I was to muzzle my dog, Vegas, use a 4-foot and 6-foot leash, get insurance, and training, which I added to show my commitment to the safety of the community and to my dog. It's important to note that this arose after my dog had bit a bystander that came to help me when I had fallen and the dog was trying to protect me. Even though I told the gentleman I was fine, stay back, twice I told him to stay back, and he didn't. 4 months later, after no incidents on daily walks, multiple times past police in cruisers, police working details, and passersby in cars and on foot, living in a rooming house with multiple people and children, my dog had an emergency choking incident, and I led him to a vacant children's park to take off his muzzle and allow him to get sick. I led him to a nearby park bench to put his muzzle back on. The ACO came by and asked, why was the muzzle off? I told her my dog had just gotten sick. The ACO, with the town's blessing, took my dog, and I never saw him again. I begged the town to file a criminal complaint, as was suggested by the chief of police, so I could have an unbiased court decide the fate of Vegas. Instead, the town manager gave me, quote, appropriate direction, end quote, as he can be heard at the June 28, 2021 Town Council meeting, only to ultimately deny my rights to such unbiased court decision and hire a Boston-based law firm to argue to the court not to hear the case. The judge said, and I quote, Mr. Solinsky, I have read your file in full, and I understand your dog bit someone after you had fallen. I also understand you had not been with your dog for the last 2 months. He then looked directly at the ACO and suggested maybe the town can work something out. Following the judge's suggestion, the ACO was approached on the courthouse steps and rebuffed the judge's suggestion. At the September 27, 2021 Town Council meeting, the Town Council members voted 6-3 to have my dog killed, again at the recommendation of the ACO, who said her only option was to, quote, bring the dog to a vet and have final services performed, end quote. You took my dog and were going to kill him because it seemed you thought I was lying about the emergency situation. Some of the town council and town manager were so bold as to lie at the January 24th, 2022 meeting, saying that they never voted to euthanize my dog, even when it was on tape. The town manager further distorted the truth at the January 24th meeting that the ACO found placement for Vegas, when in fact the ACO said at September 27th meeting she could not find placement. Because the ACO refused to work with an organization that offered to find placement for Vegas, my attorney offered to help us get the dog out, despite the ACO's only option to euthanize the dog. In order to do this, the town made me sign an unconscionable 5-page agreement, including stipulations like I would not sue the town.
Sir, your time is expiring.
All I want to say is This isn't over. Believe me, this is far from over.
Are there any other citizens in the audience tonight that would like to approach the podium to speak on an issue not on the agenda? Very well. Agenda item number 9, a vote to ratify the agreement with Graphics Unlimited LLC for $1,950 for CDBG commercial rehab project at 111 Central Street, and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved. Second.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I was at the Plan and Development Subcommittee meeting held a few weeks ago, and it was unanimous in favor of moving forward with this to the town council. Thank you.
Any discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Sorry I wasn't able to attend that meeting. I had a conflicting meeting that I had to attend. I did watch the meeting on YouTube, and I did have a couple of questions. This is for engineering design of some awnings for $1,950, rigid awnings. Do we know how much the awnings are going to cost? Do we know how much the awnings are going to cost? That's one question that I have.
How much the awning?
Sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. How much the awnings were?
Yeah, how much are the awnings? This is just for design of an awning?
Well, from my understanding, on the back page, it gives a breakdown of the awnings. So I think it was 2 of them at a rate of $125 a piece for $250. Am I correct on that?
Oh, I don't think I don't think I got that part of it. What I got was just the engineering costs, but
If I could please clarify, this is the design to then develop the scope to then go out for construction. In the federal and state procurement, we're required to go out for written quotes. So we will come back to you in April. I think it's stated in the memo, the timeline. And if I didn't, I apologize, but we will need to come back for permission. Once received, we can proceed with the quotes to complete the construction this spring. We'll return to town council to approve the construction portion in April.
okay. If I could continue. During the meeting, there was, Miss Dean asked that it was her understanding that all contracts must be approved by the town council, and Councilor Adams said service contracts, and I had never heard that before, that only service contracts came before the town council. I think Ms. Dean was explaining that her requisition and purchase order process acts as a contract, but this is just a simple quote. So I know that Ms. Dean wanted to know if she could package this faster. This one in the next agenda item. But the issue really is whether this is a simple agreement or a formal contract, but if it involves appropriations, then it has to come before the council according to our town charter. Ms. Dean, I thought that what you were recommending, that you be able to expedite this, that's the words that you were using, without coming back to the town council, but as long as you're going to come back to the town council, then that's fine. I have been over there to that building. I've seen the work that the McCarthys have done on it. It's a really nice looking interior. I don't think Mr. McCarthy is going anywhere, so I don't know why we have to expedite this. You did mention that the previous owner was given $80,000 to acquire or fix up the property, but then sold the building to Mr. McCarthy. And I was wondering what happened to that $80,000. Did we ever recoup that money, or?
So may I respond to a few of those questions? Councilor Marquetti, you did a FOIA, or a Freedom of Information request to me asking about the history, I believe a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And I think at that time I shared with you the background on that. I can recap now, or it can refer you to that past FOIA.
So we did not receive that $80,000 since then?
Shall I recap briefly? Sure. So back in 2000, whatever the year was, 15, 16, the town acquired the building on behalf of the owner at that time was going to be Hunter Foot. Hunter Foot was slated to develop the project under what's called the Economic Development Fund. Those are no longer available through the Community Development Block Grant for most situations. The EDF was going to allow $800,000 worth of development. When the quotes went out, the quotes were too high. They were unable to get the project done, and unfortunately, the project sat, or the building sat stagnant. And it was sold in 2019 to the McCarthys. With regards to expediting, I did refer to the next agenda item a few times about expediting that, for sure. With regards to speed for this is CDBG fiscal year 19 grant, which does expire in June, so that would be my only timeline, but I don't feel like we need to expedite this by any means.
All right, thank you. If we didn't get that $80,000 back, perhaps we should have had a contract so that, because that's really the difference here. If you have a contract, then you have some legal means for recouping funds like that. But I'm okay with it, thank you. That's all I have, thanks.
Very good. Anyone else?
Could I assure the council that I can't speak for prior practice, but it is our practice to lien the properties to ensure that we do protect our investment the moment we put money into it.
Very good. Any further discussion? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Thank you.
Item number 10, vote to enter into the Massdot agreement for Tier 2 technical assistance to hire an engineer based on the request for qualifications, RFQ, and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents and vendor contracts.
So move.
Second.
Councilor Adams.
Again, 4-0 at the P&D Subcommittee meeting in favor of.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did watch this agenda item as well. This is, again, to hire a technical assistant engineer for up to $38,000. In the memo received, it says you would like a blanket request to hire an engineer. So what I'm getting out of that is that once you put this RFQ out and you get some bids back, you want to go ahead and hire the engineer without coming back to the town council. So that's where I'm saying that that's against the town charter, because all appropriations come to the town charter. I know you would like to expedite these things, but that's how our town charter reads. Once you put it out to bid, now you've got a total, you have to come back to the town council. You also said during your presentation that we were not going to get this by May 1st in time for the bicycle path on West Street, and that more likely you would get this approved by fall, so it probably won't start anything till next spring. So I would say that I don't see why we have to move expeditiously on this. I also was looking at some other complete street projects in the area. Sturbridge, Webster, and Dudley. Sturbridge, they constructed a new crosswalk on Cedar Street, new sidewalks, one to an elementary school, another to a recreation area, and to a senior center. In Webster, they constructed a sidewalk with curbing and flashing beacons along south side of East Main Street. In Dudley, they used it near the fire station, a sidewalk near the elementary school. All of these were about $400,000. And it seems to me all these three towns use their complete street funds on practical uses. So when we have many streets and towns that have no sidewalks, that families could use them and their children could walk on. Parts of South Street have no sidewalks. Dennison Drive is missing a sidewalk. Morris Street, to name a few. East Main Street could really use a new sidewalk. It's really a small, narrow sidewalk, and people use it a lot to walk down to Big Y. So I was just curious, what projects are we looking at for this engineer to be studying and give us some sort of plan, to work on the plan? I know that reading over the paperwork here, it seems to me that the town should have something that we want to use this engineer for. I don't think he's just going to come in here and say, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. There must be some sort of plan that we have, that we want this engineer to scope out. So if I could get some ideas on what we plan to use this for, I would appreciate it.
The goal of the technical assistance is to create that plan. So they do an assessment, they come up with what your assets are, existing inventory, and then they help you to prioritize with the town. With regards to the blanket contract, I know, for instance, the Airport Commission had come to you in the past for a blanket contract. That was a great example of where they were trying to capture an opportunity to expedite. In this instance, we know the dollar amount, we know the potential engineers, but I respect the town council's wishes to have me come back. It would just postpone, as you state. We wouldn't be able to make the April 1 deadline for the Tier 2 prioritization plan. We'd end up applying for it in the fall, and then we could work on it through the winter, and then we could go for the application in the fall, is what would happen. So right now, our timelines are either April 1 or either September 1 for potential projects, or for the technical assistance. And then if we were to be able to get into the April 1 application for the Tier 2 technical assistance, then we could apply for projects come fall. If we don't make the fall deadline, then that would push us out into the spring. I'm in an eagerness to try to couple with the road projects we're doing, opportunities to spend this money. I see in our future, I did see the West Street shared path as a great opportunity for complete streets. However, because we won't make that, there will be the potential River Crane project. There will be the and I see River Crane as a great opportunity. There will be a potential fire station construction in the future that could have complementary. I'm not sure, where we would try to dovetail complete streets money with infrastructure projects, but it is a great complement for sidewalk money when you're doing roads. Chapter 90 doesn't pay for sidewalks. We don't have sidewalk money, as we all know, right? We have the sidewalk fund, which is limited, so this is a great resource for that. It's up to the town how you want to approach the contract process. I'm happy to take it slower. It eases my workload.
Well, if I could continue, as I watched the meeting, it was you who said we were not going to get the money by May 1st. It wasn't because you had to bring it back to us for a vote. It's because the state told you we're not going to get it by May 1st. So you said we were going to probably get it in the fall. And so I don't see why this has to be expedited. If you're not going to get it till fall, you're not going to get it till fall. I don't have a problem with this, so I'm not trying to start an argument over it. I just want to make sure, I've always asked that we use our funds on practical purposes. And so I wanted to know if there was a specific project that you wanted to use this on. These other towns got about $400,000. Everybody gets about $400,000. And I wanted to make sure that we use it for something practical. Crane Street is fine. And that's all I wanted to know. But thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Very good. Council Lazo.
Just a quick note, I'm following the previous speaker, which a lot of good points are brought up, but the word expedite in my world, in the private sector, is a good word. Expedite means let's get it done, let's push it a little harder, and if we go a little harder and a little faster, we could run into some other good things down the road as they might cross paths. So for myself, I say expedite, let's get it moving. I must say this council has always been, sometimes we always push. And this is one of the times that I have to agree that let's expedite this. Let's push this thing forward tonight. And if I thought there was some danger down the road from it and we need to be skeptical, then I could see it. I think you know the feeling of the council as far as our areas that we're working on, what's blighted, we want the worst to be taken care of in some of these projects. And I'm sure that our team with the manager and the economic development and planning and development basically have an idea on in Southbridge where we need the sidewalks and roads. So we're all here. Anytime somebody's going to come back with anything, we can always take it again. But I would say expedite.
All set? Very good. Councilor Jovan.
Thank you. Through you, I echo a lot of the previous speakers' thoughts, and I just want to take this one bite at an apple here because I love your enthusiasm, but sometimes it's hard to follow you, Ms. Dean. So I just break down this memo that we have. We're going to award a contract for $38,000 for work to be completed by April 1st. So explain that to me. It's now March 14th. By the time you request proposals, what work is between now and April 1st that you can conceivably get done if we were to vote this tonight? That's question number one.
May I answer?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was, when I had my hand raised 2 speakers ago, I apologize, this isn't clear. When we went to subcommittee that night, I said I had just talked to the Massdot people, and they told me at that point that my May 1 eagerness to meet the May 1 application was unlikely, highly unrealistic. So now all I am asking from the council is for you to please consider letting me submit the application. We would go out for the RFQ to those 3 engineers, BSC Group, VHB, and Ty and Bond.
Okay.
Whomever we choose as the highest qualified, we being you'd asked who would be involved in the RFQ, or someone at the meeting had asked who would be involved in the RFQ. We presume it would be the DPW, the deputy DPW, myself, and Michael, if he so chose to be, to designate us as the RFQ committee. And then once we chose the engineer, it's for no more than, right, it's not to exceed 38,000. We drop that name into the application that Michael then executes. So we're asking you tonight to pursue the Complete Streets Tier 2 technical assistance to hire the engineer based on the RFQ and enter into the agreement, and then allow the town manager to sign that agreement. We send it to Massdot by April 1, and then between April 1 and whenever they finish this prioritization plan, we'll aim for the September 1 or October 1 fall date to submit then applications for the Tier 3 funding for construction.
Okay, so this is just as long as we do this by April 1st, then we have the time to prioritize, work with this group for a fall funding date.
Correct.
I have no problem then supporting this evening. That makes more sense than trying to rush everything before May 1. Thank you, Ms. Dean.
You're welcome.
Councilor Steves.
That more or less answered the question I had, just to clarify. So you got this 38 grand here, and then that will allow us, that will authorize us to get the other 300 grand or whatever it is that Councilor Marchetti was mentioning. Okay, that's what I thought. Good.
I hear Councilor Steves really well when I sit next to that back speaker, and I apologize. We can't hear
him
you from these speakers. They're angled that way, so
Okay.
I always feel bad that we can't hear you very well from up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was just saying that, as I understood it, based on what you were just answering to Councilor Jovan, is that the 38 grand through the planning process there will enable us to get the other 300 grand that Councilor Marchetti, or whatever it is, the 300.
Yes.
It is going to be about 400 grand? Do we know what that sum is going to be?
It will be 400, each community is
400.
eligible for up to 400.
Up to 400. Do we have any idea how much? Is it based on population, or is it
Oh, no, it's
part of the
400.
plan?
It's 400.
It is 400 or up to 400?
It is 400.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
It sometimes is hard to spend all of the 400.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to backtrack real quick. I did mention earlier it was a 4-0 vote. I believe it was a 3-0 vote. We'd only had 3 individuals there that evening to vote on this, and thank you for explaining that as far as the Tier 2 and then the Tier 3, and the fact that, you know, this Complete Streets, I think, is very important for the town because it adds a little bit more cushion, more funds to available to the town, especially for ADA compliances, you know, bike pass, walking pass. I mean, it just brings it all around, and it grows that project even better for the town. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Steves.
Yeah, just it makes me think of the fact that several years ago, I know I've mentioned this before, but several years ago, we had visitors, as part of our anniversary back in 2016, we had visitors come up from Southbridge, New Zealand, and take a tour of downtown, and they were absolutely appalled at Main Street sidewalks. So I think that ought to be a priority at some point.
Very good. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Thank you.
Item number 11, vote to approve applying for the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism Destination Development Capital Grant for up to $50,000 for the design portion to create a historic walking tour in Southbridge and allow the town manager to sign any related documents.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Councilor Adams.
3-0 in favor of.
Okay. Please.
Questions that came up at subcommittee, which you may have heard, were, will the, should we rescind our award because we can't fundraise within the first 3 months the amount that would match the award? Will it hurt our future potential funding? No, it would not. They would be absolutely fine with that. And so this was what we had suggested in the expression of interest would be a good project for the town to apply for a grant and be awarded to pursue a historic walking tour. You complimented the expression of interest application that was written actually by the CMRPC planners. We didn't get a great response from the expression of interest from the state. However, they did put us on the radar screen of the funders. So the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism invited us into this webinar of 20 other people. And this seems like it's perfectly in line with their funding projects. We would just do design first, and then next year we would go for construction once we completed the design. We would fundraise in the first 3 months for the 50% match, and we would design for landmarks along historic Main Street and throughout the downtown, and create a kiosk mapping system. And this would be at the direction of, let's get the local historic district committee involved, let's get the historic commission involved, whomever, wants to be a part of this. It's a great opportunity to finally bring a vision to fruition that the town's talked about for a long time, similar to the rail trail.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the third grant for engineering. This one is for $50,000. We must match it with $50,000. And your plan is to do fundraising for that. So this is for a total of $100,000 to design markers and a kiosk downtown. I didn't know we needed engineering for that. I don't know what we ever did without engineers, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure about the audio. I think it's a great idea. I've always said we should do something with putting historical markers downtown. Not sure an audio would work. There's enough distraction downtown without people walking around. What, are you planning on earphones or something? I'm not sure that would work. I just am amazed that $100,000 is needed to design markers, historical markers downtown. But other than that, I have no problem with it. I'm glad to see that it's a grant and that it's not taxpayers' money. Thank you. Well, it is, I guess, in a way, but it's taxpayers' money that go out, and a lot of states grab that money, so why don't we get some of our own money back? That's the way I say. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Dean.
I do state within the memo, presumably far less. So I'm predicting that this will not cost very much at all. Yes, but we do want a professional designer, brander, someone who can really build on the existing technology so that it's something that we could potentially, in the future, it was brought up during the subcommittee meeting, potentially build in other landmarks if we made it sizable, affordable for us, and then in the future we're able to add on to it. And that audio walking tour, these are very popular now. You can do a self-guided walking tour. You can scan the QR code. You can get historical information. They're a wonderful tourist attraction.
All right.
Councilor Jovet. I'm sorry, Councilor Adams.
No, I'll pass it on to my friend over here, to my right.
Wow. through you, Mr. Chairman. Couple things. One, I remember attending, I think Councilor Adams was with me when we went to a Southbridge Business Partners, and they had a big presentation, and there was a lot of enthusiasm about having something like this, which I think is great for the town of Southbridge. And I think Franklin Realty also had talked about doing something in their pathways through some of the work that they're doing. I understand one of the previous speakers' comments about engineering costs. Unfortunately, anything that you put out to bid, you have to have engineering. Nobody's going to allow you to do anything without engineering. And I know it's frustrating that we spend money on engineering, but it has to be designed so that if it's in a walkway, you're not violated any ADA requirements and height requirements and all that, so there's a whole thought process going in it. And the old days, we used to be able to just throw things up and just enjoy it all, but, so I think that's part of the problem, and that's why projects cost so much money. That's why, and then you get to the prevailing wage requirements and making sure that those specs are put in. So I just think it's great. Again, before I turn it over, thank you for sending the memo of all the grants that you've worked on. I appreciate that, and this is just more in the wheelhouse of how we get Southbridge to be the best place to reside. So it's just continue the momentum and start seeing these projects go to fruition. So thank you, Ms. Dean, for this.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I didn't mention that evening was that the Veterans Council is also working on QR readers as the fundraising is going along. And maybe there's a piggyback off of that a little bit from Elm Street, from the World War Memorial Park to Dresser Park at the same time. So I think that's I think we can caveat of each other's projects at this point in time and make it seriously a walkable downtown all the way to the Rotary up to the church. So thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? I'm sorry, Councilor Steves.
No problem. And just to dovetail on what Councilor Adams was just saying, I believe that the Local Historic District Subcommittee or Study Committee is also looking at doing something very similar to this.
Which?
Steve Brady's committee, the Local Historic Committee.
Yes, this.
Because he brought that up as part of his presentation a couple of weeks back, and I think you were there too, so you probably heard about it. So I don't know if you're working with him already, but this would be between that and the military history walkway and some of the other historic walks, we could have multiple things going on at the same time and have them all kind of interwoven. So that'd be great.
Go ahead, Ms. Dean.
I feel it's my job to hear what I'm hearing out in the subcommittee. I try to watch as much as I can of the meetings, read as much as I can of what's going on, to then reach for the opportunities that reflect your interests and ideas. And so I feel like this represents the local historic district's vision and the Southbridge Business Partnership's vision, et cetera. I tried to compile it together, pursue the funds, and then we can put it all together.
Good.
Anyone else? Very good. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
Have a good night.
You too. Item number 12, vote to approve a transfer for $71.50 from account number 001141-571000, assessor mileage, to account number 001141-573000, assessor dues, to cover the increased cost in the dues.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. This came before general government and was approved unanimously. It is just to cover the increased cost in members-based dues. Member dues, excuse me. Thank you.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 13, vote to approve a transfer for $100 from account number 001159-534100, cable advertising, to account number 001159-57300, cable dues, to allow for membership to massaccess.org.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. This was approved unanimously at the General Government Subcommittee, and this would allow for the cable department to access training videos, be able to do job postings, etc. See what other cable access networks are doing around us, things like that.
Very good. Discussion? Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present? Item number 14, vote to approve a transfer of $4,000 from account number 001145, I believe that should be a dash, maybe not, .511000, treasurer collector salaries, and wages to account number 001145-513000 treasurer collector overtime due to staff shortage in the collector's office.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this was recommended unanimously by the General Government Subcommittee. They had somebody who was at the max step leave. This created some savings, and due to some backlogs in the office, there is somebody who's willing to volunteer. So the treasurer recommended that this money be moved out of the current salaries and wages into the overtime to cover that person's working. And because the person was at the max step that left, there will be a cost savings to the town, so there won't be any increase to the town for this.
Very good discussion. Very well. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 15, vote to approve the engagement letter with Rosselli, Clark and Associates to provide the town's audit services for fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2024 in the amounts of $37,500, $39,000, and $40,500, and allow the town manager to sign all related documents.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this was recommended unanimously by the General Government Subcommittee. I will actually let the manager talk more about this if he is so prepared. I don't want to mess anything up on this. Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Councilor Ryan, Council Chairman. Daniel, this afternoon I did receive an email from Ms. Harnois because she could not be here this evening, and I said I would cover. I was not at the subcommittee meeting due to a conflict, but if I may, Chairman Daniel, read this. Ms. Harnois wrote to me and said, I'm recommending that the Town Council ratify the 3-year contract with Rosselli, Clark and Associates for the town's audits for fiscal years 22, 23, 24. This would be their second 3-year contract. They are very professional and responsive auditors and familiar with the town. They conducted our audit for 8 years before. We had another firm, which, in her opinion, did not feel they worked well for us. The audit fee was $36,000 for the last 6 years, and the new audit engagement letter contains a small increase over the next 3 years. She further notes that it is difficult to find good audit firms, and therefore I recommend ratifying the contract with Rosselli, Clark and Associates. Procurement of certified public accountants, she also pointed out, is exempt under Chapter 30B, the procurement laws, and just reminded me that the subcommittee, General Government Subcommittee, voted unanimously for it. And that is correct, that certain professional services do not require procurement, such as legal fees and accounting.
Very good. Councilor Jovan.
Just a quick question through you, I guess, to town. Is this the current firm that we have now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I know they Ms. Hannois came last year, highly recommended to make the change, so thank you.
Councilor Steves.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. At the general government meeting, Ms. Harnois mentioned that that you guys are just about done with the current audit. Has that been completed?
Yes, I did receive an email from Ms. Harnois that they thought they would be finished not this week, but next week,
Okay.
Finishing up next week, and we are interested in getting it for a variety of reasons. I like to use it in the budget presentation, so we may get a draft audit by the end of next week. If I have materials, I will try and share them. If not, if I get some snippets of material, I'll put them into the budget presentation the following week.
All set? Yep. Anyone else? Very good. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 16, vote to approve the recommended subcommittee meeting dates from March 17, 2022 to June 30, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As directed by the Town Council, I reached out, I think it was Tuesday after our last meeting, Town Council meeting, to the Town Manager and Ms. Knorr to come up with some dates for the subcommittee meetings throughout the rest of the, up until end of June, and then readdress that once July comes around. I think the whole purpose behind this is that we talked about it was to try to consolidate the meeting dates as to work together, so we're not doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Mondays all the way through, and just try to make this an easier process to make. So if you notice, I know this is from the town manager, so I want to thank him and Nora with these dates, and if you take a look at it, it'll, it's, these subcommittee dates are after, like the next, like say Monday, then Thursday, we have a town council meeting, but then Thursday we'd have a subcommittee meeting. The following Tuesday you would have one, but you wouldn't have one Thursday before the Monday town council meeting. And obviously, as I think we all understand, there are emergencies, there's things that do happen that we have to move along, but these are some of the recommended dates right now.
Councilor Steves, then Councilor Ryan.
Just a quick observation that I noticed that the very first week, we already have something scheduled for Wednesday the 23rd.
Did you say that again?
I said I noticed in the very first week, we already have a couple of meetings slated for Wednesday the 23rd, as they were announced earlier this evening.
So then we just adjust fire, and if we have to keep those dates to Wednesday, or if we can move those dates to Thursday, that's fine too as well. I mean, that's up to the subcommittee chairs and the department heads. I think that's where, if they can move them to the Thursday and the Tuesday, then please do.
Councilor Ryan.
Thank you. I have no problem with the dates as they're set. I'm fine with the Tuesday, Thursday. With the question that came to mind, though, was, does this mean the town hall possibly changing its night also gets put on hold for the meantime as well? It's long night.
Mr. Manager.
Because that was talked about when we started talking about changing the nights for our meetings.
If I may, Mr. Chair, through you to the previous speaker, we did some informal polling. People said they would, if need be necessary, they may be open to it, but most people felt for historical reasons the Thursday worked, and it worked for a lot of folks. We could move it, but my staff, primarily Ms. El-Gadri, worked on this. She did come meet with me. I think she talked with Councilor Adams as well. We were working within the existing schedule. We had some staff that did comment that, a lot of people have centered their familial activities and outside of work activities based on that Thursday night, and some people are used to the town hall being open as on Thursdays as it has been historically. So trying to honor all people's interests and desires, we're trying to work within that existing Thursday.
Okay. Councilor Adams.
I just want to make note that we're only doing this as we discussed, and for people to understand that we're doing this to see how it works for the remainder of the fiscal year. And if we have to adjust as we go along for the next year, then that's fine as well. It's just again, consolidate, try to get the meetings on the same date, and I think it'll also make department heads and subcommittee chairs a little bit more responsible for their dates, to make sure that nothing's being rushed through, and proper planning takes place.
Yeah, one quick thing is that I just wanted to point out that I'd also like to make sure that we don't have our subcommittee, I was going to mention this at the council's forum anyway, that we don't have our subcommittee meetings in April conflict with the dates of the Municipal Vulnerability Program project, because we'll have a couple of meetings for them, the stakeholder meetings on the week of the 4th and the week slated temporarily at the moment for the week of the 18th. So we just got the email this afternoon, so just try not to conflict those, please, because those are kind of important.
Councilor Marchetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a problem with this either, except that once in a while, some of these, we have too many subcommittees on one night, and it becomes very conflicting. So I don't really want to see that happen either. I thought maybe it would be better if we just scheduled meetings for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and spread them out a little bit. I know that a couple weeks ago, I had a meeting scheduled, and then Councilor Ryan had a meeting scheduled right afterwards, and it was a remote meeting while mine was live. So that was, I ended up moving my meeting to accommodate Councilor Ryan, because there was no way I was going to be able to run home and get on the remote meeting for your meeting. But then other times we're having multiple meetings on one night, and some of the meetings can run pretty late if we're all trying to schedule at the same time. As far as moving the nights that the town hall stays open, I believe historically that was done for the residents of town. So to take a poll of the town employees to see what night they want to stay open, I don't think that's necessary. Historically, Thursday night was always the night, and it was done for the residents of Southbridge. I mean, I did my own poll too. Most of the town hall employees want to keep it on Thursday night. All right, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Ryan.
I just want to say I had no idea that happened. If any chair have or that our meetings were scheduled and conflicted, but if it does happen, email me, contact me. I'm more than happy to move my time. I was not contacted to move my meeting, so
No problem.
but I will if need be. So that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Lazo.
As far as the town hall staying open, it's always been Thursday for a particular reason. Payday was Thursday. They did all their town hall stuff on Thursday night for the people that work during the day. As far as the subcommittee meetings, I think the discussion with the town manager spurred the being out every single night. Okay, let's corral that in. We have 5 subcommittees. So all you have to do is earmark Tuesday to 2 subcommittees, whichever ones you want to earmark. I think the subcommittee chairman can sit down with the chairman and say, look, PPP and Education and Human Services run whatever day, Tuesday, and then 2 on one other one, and 1, we used to have general government on the alternate Monday. That's the way it used to be. We can do what we have to do, but I thought by doing it 2, 2, and 1, you don't run into each other. You got an earmarked day the whole year, the rest of the year. I know every Tuesday I'm gonna have a meeting. Now, if I don't have a meeting because there's nothing coming forward, then I don't go at 6. And you know, if one subcommittee said, Councilor Jovian said, I would like 6 and you can have 7, I'm good. But every Tuesday, those same subcommittees, so you automatically know if it's on, it's Tuesday. And label your subcommittees to the day. It would work a lot easier, I think. We did it back in the 80s, and we were one subcommittee less. We didn't have plan. We just started planning development my first year as chairman. But I think earmarking it for your schedule and talk with the town manager what's convenient to his schedule, so it works for everybody. And you're not out every single night, because you know as well as I know there are some subcommittees we really don't need the manager there. And I think that's a discussion between the leadership of the council, mainly the subcommittee chairman, the chairman, and the manager. If the feedback comes down, I don't need him there, I need Woodson there. Or this is a run-through presentation by Dean, by Peg Dean. And, you know, we can work this out. And I think the leadership should basically take the reins on this one.
Councilor Adams.
Not to belabor this any longer, I do know a few years ago, back in 18, we would hear from Yvonne and say, hey, listen, these are the dates that you have. You know, we'd like to do it on Tuesday, but there was already 2 scheduled. Can you do it on a Thursday? And the only thing I would ask the town manager's office to do is have Nora contact us, and if there was a conflict of dates or something like that, just work with us and the chairs, and I think it'll work out just fine. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Marquetti.
I just wanted to follow up on what Councilor Lazo said. So are you suggesting that we not vote on this tonight, send it back and maybe tweak it a little bit, or what are you suggesting?
Whatever the council's feeling is. I mean, I think that I was appointed by the chairman, and I'd be willing to have a chairman's meeting and sit down and, you know, which night it works for you, which way it works for you, town manager at the table, even if it's during the day for an hour. We can all get together and just knock it out one shot. If you want to vote this, we'll work from now till June with this, fine. Then when we reorganize, and maybe, you know, we'd go the other direction. Whatever you want to do.
Councilor Jovian.
Just throw my 2 cents in through you. We're all adults. We're all chairmen of different subcommittees. I know personally that if I have a meeting, I look at who else has a meeting when they call me and say, I need an EHS subcommittee meeting. Okay, what dates do you have? Who do you have? Well, Councilor Lazo has a PPP. How many agenda items does he have? 2. Okay, schedule mine at this time. I'll go to his afterwards. it's all communications. And if we know, I say stick to these dates, we know what those dates are, and then as colleagues, just call around if we have a meeting, say, hey, what do you have on your agenda? I know personally, the two subcommittee meetings that are the longest are general government and DPW. So I know to stay away from those dates, but I know P&D goes pretty quick, PPP we go pretty quick, and EHS, I've had 3 meetings this whole year, not because it's just the way it was. Those are the two busiest subcommittees. So I communicate with these two, we have short agendas, and you two work out what days you have them, and I'm good with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if I may, I'd like to say that this is a 12-week trial, and I'd like to give this a shot. With the increased communication, I think that we can see how it goes, and then come the first of the new year in July, it can be looked at again by the council that's seated at that point. But this is one potential solution, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think we should give it a shot and go from there. Any further discussion? Councilor Osborne.
I just would like to comment on that line of communication. I have to pay a compliment to the new girl in the front office, Nor. She is outstanding when it comes to scheduling. I have not had a conflict at all with anything that she's laid her hands on. Thank you.
Very good. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Councilor Marquetti, I believe you wanted to address item 17 before it's...
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to postpone this reading until the next meeting in April 4th or 11th, and I'd like to give you my reason why. Last year, around the same time, there was a
Just a point of order, Mr.
Certainly.
Chairman. If he should make a motion to postpone, and then we can discuss, I believe.
I think you're right.
I made a motion to postpone.
Well, that's right. I'll entertain a second before you go into your discussion.
And I'll second it.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Marquetti.
Sorry, Mr. Councilman, I just
No, that's,
procedurally.
thank you.
Nope, very
Thank you for correcting me. Last year, there was a wetlands bylaw that was passed at a general government subcommittee meeting, and it came to the town council for a vote at the February 8th, 2021 meeting, which was a remote meeting. At that meeting, Councilor Jovan, who was chairman at the time, noted that there was no copy of the wetlands bylaw on the town's website, and there didn't appear to be a hearing. Chairman Jovan was concerned that there was no proper notice given. So a motion was made to postpone the reading of the wetlands bylaw until March 8th, 2021 council meeting. Councilor Steves made the motion, seconded by Councilor Adams. It passed unanimously. Since then, the wetlands bylaw has been posted on the town's website for over a year and has never come back to the town council for a vote. This bylaw has not been posted at the town's website, nor does there appear to be a public hearing. So therefore, to be consistent with past actions by this town council, I would like to make this motion to postpone the final reading until April 4th or 11th, whichever the next meeting in April is. And I would like to see the wetlands bylaw come back here for a reading and a vote, considering that it did go through the General Government Subcommittee in accordance with Rule 8A in our council rules and regulations. Thank you.
Councilor Steves. Then Councilor Orange. You're ceding to her first?
Yeah, she was there
All right, Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I would see that maybe we should post it on the website, but because with the wetlands bylaw, I believe there had to be a specific hearing because of the type of bylaw that it was, not because it was a bylaw for the hearing, correct?
The way I understand it, yes.
I'm just going by what was said at the meeting.
So I'm trying to make sure we all, or clarify that the reason that one needed a hearing was because of the type of bylaw it was.
Point of clarification?
Yeah.
Certainly.
The Southbridge Code of Bylaws says at least 10 days before final passage of a general bylaw, notice of such bylaw shall be published once in a local newspaper and posted on a town bulletin board. Such proposed bylaw shall also be posted in full on the town website. and be available in the office of the town clerk. After final passage, the bylaw notice therefore should be posted on the town bulletin board and website. So that was the provision at that time that I did refer, because that is in our bylaws in order to, and this is a general bylaw that we're trying to add on to our code, correct? So that was the purpose of, Councilor Marquetti is correct.
On the hearing part, no, though, right?
It has to be published as well.
It has to be published, but it doesn't have to be a public hearing. There is a difference.
Right.
Okay.
I think
So
they
just
had to
wanna
have a
make-
hearing.
On the
that one.
publishing requirement, the website, I agree. I said that from the get-go, that's right. But the hearing requirement is not required, so I'd be fine with postponing, but until it is published on the website, but I wouldn't be fine until having a hearing, because there's no point of having a hearing for this. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Steves?
Okay, just to clarify again here, I mean, I think that the problem is we're talking about two different bylaws here. One is that the bylaw that is currently on our agenda, I have no problem with doing this. I think it does need to be posted on the website. But since Councilor Marquetti brought up the Wetlands Bylaw, one of the issues why that was delayed was because there was an issue over the fact that Conservation had their hearing on that bylaw like a year before we actually saw it. And there was some concern about whether or not we should be doing another hearing because of such a delay. And conservation bylaws do require public hearings. The bylaw that we're talking about right now for tonight doesn't legally require a public hearing, but it needs to get, obviously, some sort of public notice. There's a technical difference between the two. So as far as, and I totally agree with what Councilor Marquetti said about bringing back up the Wetlands Bylaw. We need to do that. I don't know why that sat in limbo for so long anyway, but if we need to do it probably should try to set up another joint public hearing between us and the Conservation Commission, just like we would do with the planning board, between us and the planning board, and do it again and just get it done and get it done right and go through the process and finish this thing sometime this year, because it's been sitting around for a long time.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and a second to postpone.
So this is a motion to postpone
Yes.
Yep,
until such time that the notice provisions take effect.
yes.
Okay? So it could be longer than that because we have to postpone usually to a date certain, to a specific date. However, I would say that we postpone till probably the second meeting in April,
in April.
so that you get the publishing and any feedback and all that.
I believe that's the 25th, I believe.
That's the 25th, yes, Mr. Chair.
Because I believe it takes 2 weeks, based if we use the Southbridge News, which I think is the cheapest for us to use, because it's the notice.
Right.
So by the time they get the date in, it's 2 weeks. So that would give enough time. So I would recommend an amend to the second date in April.
Okay.
Is that a friendly amendment?
I'll accept that as
Is
well.
that fine?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to postpone until April 25th, and to make sure that we get it published. All set? Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous of all present. Very good. Agenda item 18, vote to enter into executive session. A, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21(3), to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining regarding all collective bargaining units, which, if discussed in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. And B, pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiation with non-union personnel and/or to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the town manager. Council will return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Counsel Daniel.
Yes.
Counsel Jovan.
Yes.
Counsel Lazo.
Yes.
Counsel Marquetti.
Yes.
Counsel Ryan.
Yes.
Counsel Steves.
Yes.
Counsel Adams, yes.
Very good. We're moving to executive session, and we will return to open session. Calling the meeting back to order in the public session. We move now to agenda item number 19, vote to accept the amendment to the town manager employment agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Council Jovan.
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask for an amendment. It should actually read vote to ratify the amendment to the town manager employment agreement.
Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Vote to ratify the amendment to the town manager employment agreement. Very good. Council Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say that this is a good thing for the town of Southbridge. I'm very excited that we were able to come to an agreement to extend the town manager contract. I think it reflects on the work that he's done in the last year and a half, and I look forward to his continued employment. And I think it's important, given the economy that we're in and the things that are facing our community and all around the state, it's important that we have stability, and I think it's great that we have the stability for the next two and a half years, I believe it's going to be, or 3.5, 3.5 years. So I think that's great that we have Mr. McCall here, because he has certainly proven with the team that he's developing and putting in place, and the energy that he brings to the town of Southbridge. We're in good form to continue the momentum that we have set forth in the community, and look forward to his continued employment during this period of time.
Very good. Councilor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just also want to say that I'm super happy that we're going to be voting on this tonight. The town manager has done some good work. I've said before, and I'll say it again, that I think he's the best manager we've had in this millennia. He has done really good work in a very short period amount of time. When I first got involved in local politics here, the town was very divided. Not this council, but a council was divided on manager leadership, and now here we sit, pretty unified, with a strong manager who's doing good work, and we're able to secure him in this time of economic unease and keep him here to continue doing that good work. It's a win-win for this community, and I'm so happy to be supporting this tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Lazo.
The only thing I want to comment on is stability. Mike McCall came to Southbridge. He was and is energetic towards the agenda on where Southbridge wants to head. And as we are planners and we try our best, where were we, where we are, and where we're going? This gentleman took on a lot of projects that were incomplete. He played catch-up in putting out fires that he had nothing to do with. And I want you to know he did a fine job untying the knots and retying the knots in the proper manner, where these projects got done in a timely manner. Don't get me wrong, he's not perfect. There's always room for improvement. Moving forward, his thumbprint is now on the projects, the hirings. I think the council is solid, the manager is solid, and he continues to build a solid team. But again, looking forward, after what we went through when we first started, I think we're in a good place. We are going to have to start watching the tax dollars more and more because of the inflation and the cost of living and things we have to deal with. But I think what we have here, a lot of checks and balances through council, but I think most of all, he grabs the ball and he carries it. He never makes a deflection or I'm not taking ownership to anything. He takes ownership to his decisions. He takes ownership to the agenda, and I'm glad that we have him for years to come. Thank you very much for wanting to stay here. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Councilor Adams.
So to reiterate what all the other councilors previous talked about town manager, very impressive individual, and I just want to thank him for all the hard work that he's done. And he knows there's a lot more work to be done. This town is moving in the right direction constantly, And, just thank you for all the work that you've done for us so far, and we look forward to continuing that as we move on through this year and into the new fiscal year. Thank you.
Anyone else? Very good. I'd just like to say that it's been a pleasure working as council chairperson with Mr. McCall. He's been spot on right from the get-go. He knows a lot of little things that help you to run a meeting and to keep the process moving. There's a lot of red tape in town government, as there is in all government, and Mr. McCall definitely knows his way around it. So I think he's helped the town to move forward in a big way. And, this is my town. I love my town. And I'm very pleased that he's been able to do the job that he has to help my town out. So thank you. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Jovan?
Yes.
Councilor Lazo?
Yes.
Councilor Marquetti?
Yes.
Councilor Ryan?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Adams is a yes. Councilor Daniel?
Yes. Very good. That's
7-0.
7-0. The agreement is ratified.
Congratulations.
Council's forum. I'm sorry, Mr. Manager.
No, just thank you, Mr. Chairman, to you and the council members. I've enjoyed the experience that we've had so far to date. We've had a good working relationship, and it's a testament to all the employees in town and the people that we've hired in the last year. We've had some significant turnover, as many of you know, in Town Hall. It's been somewhat related to COVID and the Great Resignation, but we've also had the opportunity and the good fortune to get new people in who've quickly come up to speed, and we're all working well together, and I look forward to continued working in success with all of you. Thank you.
Very good. Council's forum. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to mention that several residents have been calling me lately about the condition of Main Street. It seems to be showing signs of cracking and potholes. We will be discussing this and other issues about the roads at our next DPW subcommittee on March 22nd at 7 p.m. in the Veterans Room. I'd like to get an early start on this year's road improvement program, so if I could have a list at the meeting of the roads and the work to be done this year, I'd appreciate it. This morning, I tuned into the Zoom meeting on President Biden's Build Back Better initiative as it pertains to Massachusetts. I think everyone got an invitation to attend. I just wanted to hear what the discussion was about, and it was interesting to hear how other communities are using their ARPA funds. Some of that I made notes on, many communities in Massachusetts are using it on mental health, substance abuse, funding the police. After all, the police are the ones who deal with things like mental health and substance abuse on a daily basis, affordable housing, rental assistance. Now, I know that the town manager has sent us an email on ARPA funds, the money that we have available, but I would like an update on that and what the plans are for using it. I thought it was interesting that the chairman mentioned forming a committee to discuss that tonight. And finally, I wanted to mention that the Friends of the Library are having a book sale May 13th and the 14th at the Jacob Edwards Library, May 13th from 10 to 4, and May 14th from 9 to 12. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Manager?
If I could, just for everybody's update, edification, I think one of the big game changers with regard to ARPA was the release of the final rule, which will be coming out and effective. It's already come out, I should say, but it'll be effective in April. It changes how communities of our size can use the money that we've been allocated, because previously you had to do a very cumbersome calculation for lost revenue, and any monies that you could show that you lost as a result of the pandemic, those were essentially wild card funds, and they weren't in the specific buckets for infrastructure, internet, responding to the pandemic. Now there's a standard lost revenue calculation, and you can use that, and it's for $10 million or less. So if you're a community that was awarded under $10 million, you essentially can use the balance of the funds. So we have roughly $4 million left. That's not counting the potential $400,000 for the rail trail. But what's changed is rather than looking strictly at infrastructure, now we could look at something else. So the other night when I met with Councilor Daniel and Adams, when we go over the agenda, we were talking about ARPA and how there are so many more uses, and then we had this basic conversation about we should start looking other than what staff originally proposed based on those initial buckets when I came here the first time, and we discussed opening it up to a much broader audience of stakeholders and things. So I credit the vice chair and chair for saying, let's put together the ad hoc committee and take in public input, because we want to make sure that we're addressing as many community needs with this money now that we can use it in other places.
Councilor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two quick things. One is that I just wanted to mention, I kind of mentioned it in passing, but I'm mentioning it again. The Municipal Vulnerability Program meetings, we're going to start, we have another planning meeting this week, and then there's going to a couple more. The public forums are going to be the week of April 4th and the third week of April, April 18th. The exact dates are to be announced, but they will be coming up soon. We'll probably set them this week. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the fact that some people who have been driving around the Rotary may have noticed that Maureen and I have been starting to do standouts regarding the war in Ukraine and war in general. So anybody who's interested can turn out there on Saturdays at noon or Sundays at the same time if the weather's terrible. We do welcome some support. That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Councilor Ryan.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lazo.
I would just like to say it was nice to see Mrs. Lapiori back in the crowd. She was missing for a little while, and whether it be COVID or whatever reason it was nice to see her back, and she's going to be running for school committee. Just a fabulous person for the town of Southbridge. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Jovan.
I'm all set this evening, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jovan. Vice Chair Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sat on that same White House meeting this afternoon. I was a little disappointed on a lot of the time was taken up by just people speaking, reading off whatever they wrote. I was a little disappointed on that. I thought a little bit more time should have been had by municipalities or government officials or volunteers to be able to voice their opinions, and I think we had a total of 10 minutes out of that whole thing. It was nice to hear what some of the towns were utilizing ARPA funds from. So I hope they have something else later on, but it was a little rushed today. As far as the Arpa Committee, that ad hoc committee that the chair has stood up, our first meeting will be this Thursday at 4:30. I asked the counselors send me what they're looking for via email, even if it's just, I think you brought up, some people brought up the housing, some the roads or the trails or whatever it may be. That'd be great just to start off, and I know town manager and I are working on getting the department heads stood up as well to meet that evening as well, or that early evening. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Agenda item number 21, discussion of next town council meeting, which will be Monday, March 28th here in the dais.
Very good. Item number 22, adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Very good. We are adjourned.
I'll send you the